So I would love to talk more about your accomplishments and things like that. I'd love to hear, we're here to celebrate you, to celebrate Black men in the fire service. And so I'd love to hear about your accomplishments, if there's anything anyone wants to share.
I can share a couple things. And like most firefighters, most of us are relatively humble. We do our job. We are not looking for a lot of recognition. You will hear that, sometimes when people get in higher ranks, there's a little bit of ego tied to that. But all individual accomplishments aside, the thing that makes me the most proud is the ability to hire and recruit and promote people that normally wouldn't be in that position. And bringing those individuals in to Fremont, San Jose, whatever jurisdiction, to help the department more closely mirror the community that they're serving is, to me, one of my biggest accomplishments, because I've seen people that we've had as explorers and people that we've had as public service assistants get into the fire service and see these kids that are looking at them, and you can tell it's either a woman, someone of Asian descent, African American, and these kids see at this age someone that looks like them, and it's just
so incredibly powerful, just that visibility.
I couldn't agree more with that one. I mean, my partner and I, Kenny Lee, Captain Lee, he's very passionate about recruiting. And I think as human beings, our greatest, feat or to our core is helping others. By helping others, we as human beings get the greatest satisfaction from that, whether we know it or not. I think that's true. And like Chief said, seeing someone who, first of all, didn't even think about the fire service, then we introduce it to them, and now their lives are changed. And I'll give one quick example. He may kill me, but I won't say his name. But this young man was a homeless man. He was homeless, but he had the work ethic, and he wanted to change the course of his family so bad that he grinded so hard, and we had a chance to be a part of that. He went through our LA EMT course that was partnered with District 2 and Mark Lilly Thomas at the time, got his EMT, passed the National Registry, went through our recruit prep. He was one of the ones that had the California.gov profile, the written, the background, all that good stuff. Now this man has a badge, and I just saw a picture of him snowboarding. I'm like, wow, dude. Like, I remember taking you home from our prep program to a house that you thought you could sleep in, hopefully. And now you have the badge, and one day you're gonna be my captain and my chief, hopefully. And most satisfaction comes from that, for sure, for sure.
I can piggyback on some of those accomplishments. One of the things I'm most proud of is, as a fire engineer, I had the opportunity to work in the community I grew up in. Actually, the same fire station, 4 houses from the house I grew up in. Being a firefighter opens a lot of opportunity, a lot of open doors, a lot of doors open for you just because of the profession. The high school that's directly across the street, Lincoln High School, wanted to start a fire protection program. So they reached out, and myself, along with a few other people, got together and we helped them organize and come up with a program, which is no easy feat. You can't just go in there and teach fire stuff. There has to be so much math, so much reading, so much writing. Their curriculum has to meet their standards. Very difficult. But my first year teaching there and doing the parent-teacher conferences and all that stuff, it's just very challenging. I recognized some things. But being from that community, I understand some of the motivating factors for kids. So what I did is I started a scholarship program. So you had to get a 4.0. That was the goal. You had to get a 4.0, because one day I was handing out grades, and it was disappointing to say the best. Overall 4.0. So you had to get a 4.0, and you had to have that 4.0. You had to have the 4.0 at the time of graduation. So you couldn't hustle for a semester and get a 4.0. So at the graduation time, I had 4 kids that got the money, and it was $400 for each of them. The money was given to their parents, not them. So I met with each parent, gave them money. One of those kids is currently a San Diego firefighter. So it worked out. The other part of that is the grades came up substantially, right? Because those kids were trying to get that money. So there's a whole nother host of kids who graduated with over a 2.0 that did not have a 2.0 at the beginning of the scholarship. So they didn't get the money because you got to have rules to the money, right? But they got something out of it, graduated with over a 2.0. Some of them with almost a 4.0. Another accomplishment that I'm proud of is some of the things we've done in the community. So we've brought Brothers United, including myself, we've actually brought the community closer to the fire department. So at one point, there were some negative articles coming out regarding the fire department that weren't factual, and you needed somebody that was able to go into the community and give them that proper information. Not anybody can do that, right? Usually we have open doors to somebody who looks like us because, and somebody that grew up in that area, because we know they're gonna give us factual information. They're not just telling us things. And we were able to provide them with the information they needed to write positive articles regarding the fire department, which our fire chief greatly appreciated. It changed the whole narrative. And what that led to was great relationships. And those are some of the community organizations, that I spoke about that now we're starting to do the CPR classes within the community that they're paying for. We're providing the people power, but they're paying for all the certs and things like that.
Changing lives, not only in fire service, but like the community. Like you're changing lives for everyone.
That's the goal.
Involved.
That's the goal. Make a
That's
difference.
exactly what I was thinking too, is like I'm asking you your accomplishments and you're telling me how your decision has impacted everyone else around you and made a better environment for everyone else. Like the thoughtfulness of that, just really incredible.
Yeah, I think if we all just put it out there and just all put it on the table, there would be some amazing stories that comes out, but we're probably gonna limit what we want to expose.
Oh man, okay. So I do want to talk about, your impact in your uniform, in your role. Do you see it visibly bring any peace of mind?
Man, I can point to certain calls where, and again, the fire department, anyone can join it. You can work anywhere you want. LA County's big. I remember in Inglewood, we had a call, and this older black lady, the patient man at the time was a white male, and he's never dealt with the inner city in his life. Again, these men and women have not been exposed to a lot of us and how we act, how we talk, how we live, and certain situations. So walking inside other folks' homes is crucial for a lot of people, such as take off your shoes when, just the blatant respect. But my particular situation was this older black lady was having an issue with her diabetes. And this young man, my partner at the time, just was kind of playing it off, like, oh, you got the sugar, like joking, and I saw her visibly get upset. He would never say the sugars ever. That's how we talk, but he must have heard it from his partners or somewhere else or wherever he heard it from. And she told that man to leave the room, and she started crying on my shoulder, literally crying, like, how can you work with him? How can you do this? And after the call, we had an education at the table. We educated, like, look, man, you're working in a different neighborhood now. You've got to be respectful of these individuals. They may not live like you. They may not live in Palos Verdes. You may say you treat them different in Palos Verdes than you would here, which is wrong already. But I visually saw her get crushed, and he was joking around, and we had to kick him out of the house, unfortunately. And then second thing real quick is I remember we were doing hydrants, and this is a part of the job that we also do. We have to check hydrants as well. And I remember this black gentleman, he was about 75, 76 years old. It was a 3-man engine, me, my captain, and the engineer. We got off the rig, and he started crying as well. And we're like, what's going on, sir? I've never seen an all-black crew in my life. 76 years of age. And this is in Ladera Heights, which is known as the Black Beverly Hills, so to speak, Baldwin Hills area. And he just took a picture. We all hugged, embraced. He's never seen an all-black crew in his life of 76 years of living. Like, that made me cry. So I think it's important that the neighborhood sees us and the community sees us, and we engage with the community and let them know that you can do this job.
And that goes back to something you were just saying, importance of that visibility, that whole piece.
Absolutely. And it goes literally from entry level all the way to the top. I sat on an interview panel for a neighboring agency to put a new fire chief in place on Monday. And thankfully, the city manager of that jurisdiction, who I knew from my San Jose career, was very thoughtful in how he chose the raters for that process. There were 2 African-American fire chiefs. I believe there's only about a little bit more than maybe a dozen of us in the state of California right now. And then he had a female chief on the panel as well. So the professional fire chief panel was made up of 2 African-American chiefs and a female chief. And then the city panel was a Latino police chief, a deputy city manager, a white male, and another female deputy city manager. So that city manager took the time to know, I'm trying to pick a diverse candidate to serve this diverse community, and this is what I need to do to set not only the people sitting on the other side of the table, like you said, when they walked into the room, they recognized these are local fire service leaders, these are local community and city leaders, and they reflect the diversity of the community. So when you walk into that, even as a candidate, I would probably relax and feel like it was more of a conversation than I'm going to be grilled by people who don't look, act, think, live like me. So.
And working in those communities and being from those communities makes a huge difference. When I was an engineer at Station 12, in the community I grew up in, when I would go to people's homes and they would recognize me, they would just feel at ease. And they would call me by name. And that would change all the treatment, right? Because once the crew knows that this person knows you, things don't purposely change. We give everybody the best treatment we can possibly give them. But now it's more of a family environment. Like, oh, you know Engineer Logan? Okay, so that changes everything. Talk about a call I went on when I was in that area. There was a DUI accident. This young lady was at the light. She was in the backseat of an SUV. They were rear-ended, so the car was smashed so bad that she was sort of contorted in the back seat. And it was a rescue car accident. So normal practice, you get to the incident, see what you need, you grab all your stuff, you come back, and you start the rescue. Well, she saw me and she identified with me, and she was like, hey, just hold my hand and tell me I'm gonna be okay. Therefore, I didn't go get the equipment I was supposed to get because I was in that community and I understand what she needed. I couldn't tell her she was gonna be okay, but I did hold her hand. My crew understood what was going on. So they covered me for that part. Being able to provide her with the comfort that she needed during that moment changed my life forever. Because if there wasn't somebody that can identify with that young lady, the normal thing is to say, hey, I got a job to do. I'll be right back. We're going to get to you and go get your equipment and come back and try to get her out. So the outcome of that call wasn't favorable, but I know she was very appreciative that I was there for her.
That's right.
I just want to piggyback on one other thing that you mentioned about, I was lucky because Chief Osby hired my class in 1992, and it was the last class that he hired. And one of the things that he was very conscious about was he wanted to make it the most diverse and inclusive class pretty much ever that he had done. In my class, 4 African-American males, 1 biracial African-American female, 3 other females, 4 Latinos, the first 3 Vietnamese ever hired in San Jose, 2 Filipinos, 1 Chinese, 1 Japanese, and 1 white male. My class picture is incredible. Chief Osby dropped the mic on that one. But at the same token, one of the things that was great was we got to learn about each other throughout the academy. We'd go have lunch. And I mean, again, this is, if you know demographics and study the city of San Jose, is now probably second to only, I believe there's a community down in Southern California. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the most Vietnamese in the entire United States. So we were learning things about each other's culture, so we would be culturally competent and not walk into somebody's house and make those kind of either comments or actions that would be triggering for someone else. So when we as firefighters sit down at the table, if you're with somebody that's not from either that neighborhood or that community, it's a learning opportunity to have those discussions about, well, what are the cultural norms that you grew up in or you grew up in? What would what are some triggers? What would you never do? What would you, and it can be very educational to raise your level of cultural competency.
Right. It can also work the other way as well. But before I share that, it's a trip how Mr. Osby did your class, his last class, and I was his son's first class. That is a trip. Anyway, it can work the other way too, though. So I worked in View Park when Barack Obama was doing his presidency. He had a event up in our area where our squad actually was the paramedic squad to his team. And we went down the hill on Crenshaw, got a burrito real quick. It was me, my captain who's black, engineer who's white. And we were in line getting a burrito. And this black lady walks in front of me. I go, ma'am, I'm in line, excuse me. And she goes, oh, you want to be cop? You want to be white boy? You want to be this? So we can be ignorant towards our job as well to our own people. So I explained to her, I'm like, man, I'm not a cop, number one. Second, that's the most ignorant thing I've heard. You're telling your neighbors that, you're telling your brother that, your sister, your friends, your kids, that they can't do this job. This is not a white person's job, a white man's job. This is a career that helps others. Whether it's a cop or a firefighter, those 2 jobs are very, very, in my opinion, hard, and anyone can do it. It's not one race or one gender that can do it. So the ignorance can also come from our own people, which I want to make sure that people know out there that, again, if your cousin or mom or dad or friends telling you that you can't do this job, it's only because they haven't seen anyone do it or they have never been exposed to anyone doing it. But you can do this job. And I found that, and all I thought about in my mind when she said that was, how many people has she told this to? Oh my gosh. Like the recruiting part comes in my mind like, great, now these kids will probably want to be rappers or athletes now. Damn, another one lost. It's important that we build each other up. So.
The cultural competency in terms of like having everyone around you really kind of understand each other's background. It'd be great to see that included more in the hiring process as it was in the example that you laid out. An incredible blessing to have you there to correct in such a graceful way, to kind of tell her, well, actually, this is my role, instead, and to kind of shed light in that regard. So from a recruitment lens, where should departments be going to find folks that would fill these spaces?
Well, there's the usual places, the community colleges that have fire science programs. That's always an easy one because either someone's told them about it or they're self-motivated and they're already in it. But when you start to think outside the box, again, sports. When I was the chief in San Jose, I found an opportunity through someone that I knew at San Jose State, and I never knew they had this before, but they had a recruitment just for athletes. No other students on the entire campus could participate. They had it in the women's gym at San Jose State. The police department was there, the fire department, and a bunch of other public service organizations and a few privates. But again, we had access to every student athlete at San Jose State at that time. Beyond that, especially if you're able to recruit for entry level, it's different when you're looking at laterals, or you're different when you're looking at experienced personnel, as in paramedics. But when you do entry level, it can be anywhere. It can be Black college fairs, it can be concerts, it can be anything in the community where you have the opportunity to just get out and meet and engage with folks. So I like to think out of the box, but again, the easy ones are Cal-JAC events up and down the state that we've had the pleasure of participating in. But again, it can be a Juneteenth festival. It can be anything where you're out in the community in uniform, showing yourself and being willing to engage and have those conversations about, hey, is this something you ever thought about before, especially if they're looking for a non-traditional job that isn't sitting behind a desk from 9 to 5 every day. And it's just having a conversation.
One of the other things we do to recruit is we go into like boxing gyms and different places where people may be that aren't in the community colleges because they're maybe not interested or they're just not there yet. And when you go into the community, it's important. We drive by parks all the time, and we'll talk to kids in the park. And it's important to reach those kids because they may not have a vision on what they want to do or what they want to be. If you got time to hang out at the park all day, you got time to go to community college, get your EMT, you got time to go to fire science classes and make yourself the most valuable candidate possible. Chief spoke earlier, there's fire departments hiring all up and down the West Coast. All you have to do is make yourself a valuable candidate. And if you're African-American or a person of color or woman, you're in high demand right now because all of us are trying to make our fire departments mirror our communities. And that is a huge, huge challenge. So if you just put forth the effort and make yourself available, we're going to find you, or you're going to find us, and you will be a firefighter somewhere. It may not be in your home city, or like the chief said, it may not, if you and 5 friends apply, you guys may not all get hired for the same fire department, but you will be a firefighter somewhere, guaranteed.
Yeah. I know our department, through Chief Darrell Osby's initiative before he retired, we have this program called Cordy, which is community outreach, recruitment, diversity, and inclusion. You know Cordy, we've worked together before, obviously. So I'm also in recruiting and help out Cordy as well. And our main goal is we work with Brent Burton's Junior Firefighter Youth Association, and we try to plant that seed early. Because if you catch them when they're 18, 19, not saying it's too late, but they're harder to grab and hold on to. If we plant that seed during elementary school, junior high, and start building them and start molding them as they grow, we found that is a lot more successful. And then, like Chief Jacobson said, is that we go to CrossFit games in Carson all the time because we want those athletes. Those spectators are athletes. Those participants are obviously athletes. So we definitely try to attend that event because, number one, we feel like they mirror what firefighters can be. They'll pull that hose. They'll put that ladder up. It's mandatory to work out at least 1 hour every day. That's part of being a firefighter. You have to work out. They will love that. So we also do what Chief said. We go to every junior college, talk to every sports team, but we just get out there and any community event that we can attend, we attend, whether that's the Taste of Soul of LA, which is a huge event, whether it's Kingdom Day Parade that happens on King Boulevard in LA, we participate in that, and we give out cards, we give out scan codes, and then we connect that way as well.
And that's why it's very important to have people in your recruitment team that can relate to that community.
Yeah.
You have to have a diverse recruitment team. For example, I recruit a lot at 24-Hour Fitness. I'm not comfortable walking up to a female and saying, hey, here's my card, you want to be a firefighter?
Yep.
It just seems weird and awkward, right? So what I usually do is I have flyers with me and I'll hand them a flyer with the recruitment number on it, nothing associated to me. So they can feel comfortable knowing that this is true. I'm truly being recruited and nothing else. But it's great to have a host of women that can go up and talk to women that they can relate to, because they can ask those questions that they may fear asking me. And sometimes they say simple questions like, hey, like, I'm not sure I can do it because those ladders look heavy or this looks very difficult. And then the women can tell them, no, it's all technique and we can teach you that. Give them those words of encouragement. And then next thing you know, they're in the next fire academy and they're in the fire engine. So all it takes is somebody you can relate to.
No, absolutely. Definitely someone you can relate to, and creating, awareness and that kind of thing. So I know your department has a phenomenal girls empowerment camp. Yours has just tremendous women's prep academies, camps, all kinds of things. Your department participates in the NorCal Women in Fire, girls camps throughout the state. So there's just so many programs, and ways for people to get engaged at this particular time. Do you have any words of encouragement for young folks watching right now? I don't know, any words you'd like to leave them with? Maybe they are caught up in this whole technology. I don't really talk to people. I just kind of listen to music. I like being in my own bubble, that kind of thing. Like, how would you kind of, maybe generationally, kind of speak to people in that group? Any words?
Put the phone down.
Chief,
Put the phone down.
We can start there.
I'm on the line of both of them, so I'm gonna have Chief.
And if you have to use the phone, use the phone for something good. I mean, there are good things that can come from social media, but at the same token, and honestly, like, good things that come from social media that I see, I've seen all of those events that the LA City and County Stentorians do, and it motivates me to try to bring some of those programs up here. But at the same token, I would say, if that's the case, read a book about something in the fire service. Get out of your comfort zone. And if you do go visit a fire station, definitely put your phone away. But utilize it to study the game. For younger folks, you're going to have to step out of the box. You can be an introvert, but certain parts of you are going to have to be extroverted in order to accomplish the goal of getting into the fire service. You have to be able to speak about yourself. You have to be able to, pat yourself on the back or toot your own horn while you're in front of an interview panel. So again, study the game, learn the history of the fire service. There's somebody out there in general. Maybe in some of the smaller communities, it might be a little bit harder to find someone that looks like you, but reach out, because there might be somebody, like he said about that first chief, who doesn't necessarily look like you, but might be an ally.
Correct.
So reach out, and if someone closes that door, don't let that discourage you. Keep trying and find somebody that you can click with. There were probably 100 different firefighters, and I visited almost every fire station in San Jose when I wanted to get hired. Up until I met with the last person who's been the last person I've talked to for every single job that I've had over the last 31 years, that's when it clicked. And that's why that was the person that pinned my last badge on me. So.
Well, like the chief said, your habits have to align with your goals. Right? That's number one. But I would like to speak to the people. We talked about having a strong support system to get through the fire academy. I like to speak to the people who don't have that support system. I came from very humble beginnings. I didn't have that support system. I did it all on my own. But to reinforce what this gentleman said, through my journey, once I got to the fire academy, I cut everybody off. It was just me and the fire academy, because I knew that's what it would take to get that goal. No distractions. Because your distractions, your friends that aren't looking to be firefighters, they're not gonna understand why you can't come out this weekend. You can't just come out for 30 minutes to go eat. You can't, no, cannot. Dedication to the goal, achieve the goal. That is the main process. That's the main priority. So for those people who don't have that family structure, you can still do it. I did it. For those of you who don't have that in-depth educational background, I didn't either. You can still do it. It's that simple. It's that simple.
You have to step out of your comfort zone, plain and simple. You have to step out your comfort zone. You have to get into that growth zone. And technology, I'm laughing because in the fire service, when he got on, people mingled, they hung out, they did everything together. There was no, you guys probably weren't watching TV all the time. They weren't going inside their own dorms, doing their own thing. Now in the fire service, people go separate ways. They go into their dorms, they go here, they go there. So if you are an introvert, you do have an opportunity to do that. I would not advise of that. However, as you get into this game, every day you're writing a chapter of your life. And when you sit in front of that interview panel, you have to regurgitate your life. And you want to make sure that there's not one page or one chapter in there that can be frowned upon. You want to make sure that your grandma or mom can read your book of life and be like, you know what, I'm proud. And that goes back to what he said, you got to cut everybody off sometimes. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices in order to get to reach your goal. And I just want to say to these two gentlemen, I admire you both. Like he said, there's only maybe less than a dozen chiefs. This man's been the fire chief of 2 departments. That is amazing, like amazing.
Huge call.
And he said he humble, right? He said that earlier. Most firefighters, most of them are humble.
Right.
So we have to pat each other on the back as well, because again, I learned a lot from you two. I know you two, whether you guys know it or not. Again, I know you guys before you guys got here. But I think it's important that we as a whole continue this conversation. I appreciate what you guys are doing, because if you are on the internet, look at the Candid conversations. I mean, just check it out. Go on YouTube. They have YouTube Academy now. You can literally look at every knot. You can look at every hose leg. You can look at every ladder. So you can expose yourself to this stuff before you even get to it, Whereas generations before had no idea, and when they got kicked out of a fire station because they looked a certain way, they had to figure it out. Now you can literally visualize what you're going to do before you actually do it, because it is out there. So like Chief said, use your time wisely and make sure that everything you do is little bricks to build the big house, which is the firehouse, which we love so much.
Well said.
Man, wasn't it? Wasn't it? And just the way that you gave both of these two their flowers as well, like just incredible. And the 3 of you are so deserving, you do so much. You spoke about your schedules earlier and just what a typical day looks like for you, yet each of you are still responsive. You have all of these emergencies, all these fires, sometimes literally, things like that you're putting out, and you're still responsive. You're still here. You're making time for things like this. So we definitely just want to thank you here at the JAC as well.
I think part of this is mental health. Like, this is good for our mental health too, though, because we do see a lot, we experience a lot, and there are mental health catastrophes that happen. We've lost people on our job due to suicide, due to murder-suicides, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't know what we go through. So when you're at the fire station, it's important that we talk about each call, that we help each other out when someone feels down. And I think for us, recruiting is huge, because it kind of gives us that energy again, like you have no idea what you're gonna get yourself into, and you're gonna love it. Like, I wanna help you get there. So the mental health aspect of it is important as well.
Do you think you can prepare for your mental health before you get into the fire service? How would you go about that?
I'm gonna say no. I had no idea that I would see what the things that I saw.
It depends on what they're teaching you in the academy. And I mean, I would say if you're pretty self-aware about how you react to stress, or if you choose and get into good habits before you get into the career, or even at the beginning of your career. If you come from a department that believes strongly in mental and physical health and behavioral health and critical incident stress debriefing, all of those type of things, it can be very supportive. But if you're getting into an organization that's not that self-aware or working towards those kind of things, I would say, just know that there's healthy ways to alleviate stress. Again, have a good support system. even if it's your peers and your classmates that you can reach out to, at the community college level or in the academy, and knowing healthy coping mechanisms, exercising, getting out of the house, reading the right books, talking to peers, as opposed to, isolating and either trying to cope through alcohol or drugs or other self-harming behavior. So there are ways, but it takes work.
Okay.
And the biggest piece of that is be aware of what you're signing up for. Like, you have to do your research. You have to. Google has everything. Google the top firefighter injuries. Google the top reason for firefighter deaths. Google all that stuff and know what you're walking into. That's how you're going to prepare, because you'll get there and then you'll be seeking help from resources, but you're already there. And it's tough to get help when you're constantly going back to the event that you're trying to get help for. So even when a person has substance abuse issues, right? They're placed somewhere where that substance isn't available. Well, for firefighters, you're going to get help, but then you're going to go to that call. And you're going to go get help, go back to that call. So how long can you play that tennis match? But if you know what you're signing up for, that will help tremendously.
And that conversation in our community as African Americans is pretty taboo. So what they're saying is very important. We got to get out of that taboo thinking, and in today's society, we got to be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, sit down and talk to someone.
Talk.
One of the first mentors I had in the fire service, the line he always told us, and it works every time: knowledge replaces fear. So anytime you were fearful about anything in the academy, the more you learned about it, the less fearful you were of it. And it worked in every situation. So
real.
You know,
I'm gonna take that one.
what were you going to say? You were saying.
No, I'm gonna take that. That's huge. I never, that is a pearl that I'm gonna keep in my pocket right now. Thank you.
So the Cal-JAC recruitment director and I got a chance to go to this event recently, Chief is My Belief. And shout out to the chief who puts it on, Chief Randall West out of Alameda County. And he highlights so many Black firefighters across the country, not just in California, across the country. We got to be there in person, and he must ask for videos from people, different chiefs, and you gave a video. And in your video, you said the knowledge dispels fears. How did
knowledge replaces fear.
Replaces fear.
Bobby Dixon, Milpitas Fire.
And when you said it in the moment, I just remember sharing with my colleague how impactful that was for me, not only just across the board, just in life. So to hear you say that that's a nugget you're going to tuck away, we're all tucking that away. Every single one of us. He said that to you.
32 years ago.
32 years, and you tucked it away. You gave it to us. You gave it to everyone in that room, virtually and in person. And it's a gift that just keeps giving. And I just, not trying to be on here crying or any of this.
It's real. I mean, that's how we started the whole conversation when we introduced ourselves, was all this stuff spanned through decades. We're 1 degree apart. And in the end, to end it, we're going to take that, and that's going to be passed on for decades. LA County Firefighters and Stentorians will hear that from my lips, and I'm going to say I got it from you.
They all know who Bobby Dixon is. Every one of those past presidents you named,
They know.
I know them all. I've worked with them all. They all know Bobby. Bobby traveled up and down the West Coast, coaching and mentoring and giving assessment centers for all of us to ascend.
I do have another question, but just in this moment, I really do want to give a shout out to many of the organizations that have been mentioned. You said the Santa Clara
County Black Firefighters.
Santa Clara County Black Firefighters. Shout out to this particular organization. Shout out to the Brothers United
Black Firefighters, Inc.
Hey. Shout out to LA County Stentorians. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, as well as Cordy and the work that Donna Lawrence and Andrea and just the team is doing. Wow. And so shout out to Chief Osby that his work is living on years and years later.
Years and years later.
We're all branches.
One of the questions I had was, is there anyone that you'd like to thank that has impacted you along the way? Without me even having to ask the question, each of you have done that consistently throughout this entire time we've been sitting down talking.
Special shout out to Robert Osby.
Yeah, Robert, I have a few. Chief Osby, definitely, first and foremost. Captain Ralph Haynes, who gave us our first ride-along. We were having some challenges fighting ride-alongs. So we were sent to a captain who happened to be African-American captain. Didn't know us right off the street. He said, hey, can we do a ride-along? He said, you ready to start now? We're like, I guess so. So we did our first ride-along. We did 24 hours. We weren't prepared to do 24 hours. The next morning, he said, if you're really interested in being a firefighter, at the time I had the goatee all connected. And my friend Jason had the iced tea ponytail. And he said, are you guys really interested in being firefighters? We said, yes, sir. He said, okay, well, next time I see you, you're gonna look like you wanna be a firefighter, because right now you don't look like you wanna be a firefighter. You need to shave, you need to cut your hair. We didn't know this gentleman. The first time meeting him, 24 hours later. And this is how serious we were. We had a brief conversation in the car ride home. Next time he saw us, I was clean shaven. Jason had his hair cut. So Captain Ralph Haynes is a big one. Another one, and Chief was spot on about allies. So my big thing is, don't judge a person by the color of their skin, judge them by their actions. My first captain, Captain Ron Moskowitz, Caucasian male, right? A month in to me being at that station, he said, Firefighter Logan, I want you to develop a 5-year and a 10-year plan, because you're not gonna be sitting in this backseat being a firefighter for 5 years, and in 10 years, I really wanna see what you think you're gonna be doing. So I developed this plan, and I handed it to him. He balled it up, threw it in the trash. He goes, that was a horrible plan. It was a horrible plan. So he made me redo it. Yeah. I redid it, I stuck to it, and he came to my, when I made battalion chief, he came to my graduation. That was huge for me, huge. Doug Nakama, throughout my career, I took the special ops journey. I tried to go the wildland journey. That didn't work out for me. So I went to special ops journey, and he was the captain of the hazmat team. And he recruited me because he saw something in me from a previous station where he was working overtime. He's doing overtime shift. So I want you to be a hazmatter. And I'm sure hazmat is the same everywhere. Nobody wants to be a hazmatter, right? It's a joke in the department. But
I did it.
I did it too. And I made the move, and it was the single best thing I could have done for my career. It opened so many doors. I went from just being a regular hazmatter to a person who was traveling basically the country teaching hazmat classes. And it's because of this Asian captain who saw something in me. So judge people for their actions, not based on the color of their skin. And there's several more people, Brothers United for sure, because if they wouldn't have that EMT class in the inner city, I couldn't have done it. I would make it to class with minutes to spare because it was on my way home right off the freeway. And during breaks, I would do all my paperwork for work and do the class during class time. And if they wouldn't have had that class there, I definitely would not be here today. So that group of people, and there's many more, but I don't want to take up too much time, but that group of people not only changed my life, but they changed my family's life. And more importantly, they put me in a position to change the lives for many others.
For me, it's Captain Brent Burton, first and foremost, because he was the first person that I talked about this fire journey to without knowing anything when he was the president of LA County Stentorians. Captain Brunson Hampton, he was the first captain of a crew that I actually asked as just a regular hooper on the street. I was like, hey, sir, how do you do this? And he actually took the time to explain it to me, as opposed to the two other crews prior to him who just said, go figure it out. And they didn't look like him, of course. So that meant a lot to me. And then Chief Darrell Osby, for sure, he has mentored me, especially him being the first Black chief of LA County Fire Department is huge. So we had a lot of good conversations. He's gotten on my head a lot, meaning that he's gotten mad at me and angry at me, for those out there that don't know what that means. And then I would probably say, as of right now, my board and Captain Kenny Lee, we have been working and maneuvering for the next generation so much that in the last 4 years, we probably graduated over 60 people of color and women that we personally have helped. So, and then just my ancestors, really, the ones that allowed me to wear that badge. Without them, I wouldn't even be here, you know? So it's just, they came through in the clutch when it mattered the most, and they sacrificed a lot. And that's why I took this role as being the president, because I couldn't let it fall on my watch, because I owe it to all of them. Just like that sticker said, all I am, I owe. And nothing realer than that.
And to add on to that,
Yeah.
San Diego Fire Department was the first integrated fire department in California.
Another pro I did not know.
1951. By an ally.
Allies.
So it's funny that you even talked about allies and that you have gone back to it. It's my last question. And I'm going to show you the paper so you can see allies. I'm being for real.
I believe you.
Oh man. So just the importance of all of that, of us educating our own. You know, when we're out and about and we see people, we run into people. I run into candidates all the time who are scared of the fire service, and it's that lack of knowledge, that lack of awareness, and it's not for everyone, but there's many people that it is for, you know, and so educating gracefully, you know, continuing to not just kind of let that persist. What advice would you give the allies, for the people who do the work with you, who get it, they want to help, but maybe they're not in the shoes. They don't know to walk in the house and not say the thing. They haven't had the cultural training yet, but who are in it.
Be willing to learn.
Yeah.
Be very receptive. Be open-minded. Ask questions if you don't know. Don't assume anything at all. And us firefighters, we joke around a whole lot. I gave a drill on our culture one time in Air Ops. And quick story, I had long hair at the time. I had my COVID hair, I call it, because it was during COVID. So I had very long hair.
Yeah.
And I had a sponge with the little holes in it for curls. And I had my spray to lubricate my hair. So I walked inside the morning lineup and they're like, oh, you have an Expo whiteboard eraser and the spray. I looked at it, I'm like, wow, it does look like that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So I gave a drill. I said, so our hair is very curly. This is what it is. This is the holes that my hair goes in. I sponge it like this, and then the curls happen. I spray it on there to lubricate it, and I sponge it some more. And they learned, you know? So just be open.
But that,
and make it fun.
And make it fun. And you were open too, because you didn't see it that way.
I'm very open, especially in today's society. Remember, we watch TV together. Some of us watch different channels. But it's important that we learn from each other. That way we grow as an individual. It makes us better as a man, makes us better educated, and it lets us navigate different groups in a much better light. And we represent not only our department, our families, ourselves, and we represent Black firefighters. If there's not a lot of us and we're the bad seeds, they're gonna think that we're all bad seeds. So it's a lot bigger than just us. So I have to be open-minded.
And I think that open-minded extends to another group within our community that's also kind of taboo, like the mental health thing. Trans, non-binary, making sure that we're inclusive of all of our people.
Yep, because the world's gonna be different for our kids, and
that's right.
And you never know what is gonna lie in front of you as we get older.
My advice would be take a breath, open your heart, open your mind, and just listen. Because if you do that, you'll figure out that we're all saying the same thing. We're all doing the same things. It's just coming out in a different form, different fashion, different tone, which may deter people, right? But if you just listen, that takes you a long way in process. Listen and process. Because when you don't listen and process and you react too fast, that might not be the situation that's happening right now. And now you've created something that shouldn't be created. That part comes with time, and it comes with a diverse workforce. The more diverse your workforce is, the less you have to explain those type of things. So we learn from each other and we make each other better. That's just a fact. So those who are fighting against diversity are ignorant and don't understand where we're going and where we're going to be. So you can't fight it. So accept it. Let's all work together to build it, and let's get there as one.
Now currently being in a smaller organization that doesn't have the level of resources that a San Diego or an LA County does, we put together a human relations committee, fire administration, me and my deputy chief at the time, sat down with the union and said, this is what we're looking to do. They agreed. We basically handpicked the first members of that community, of that committee. And again, we chose people that were open-minded, people that were going to be allies, people that were going to be open to opening up the fire department in a way, in a fashion that they might not have seen before. But again, when it really boiled down to it, it was bring us good people that are going to be reflective of the community, and they might not look like other people that have already been here before, but be open to having those conversations. And we've done great things over the past 5 years, and I'm looking forward to see what this next class looks like.
Can I speak on the importance and effect of diversity real quick? I spoke with our Mayor, Todd Gloria. He speaks on diversity all the time. If you look at his staff, not only is he speaking it, but he's doing it. His staff is incredibly diverse across the board. He's since hired a new COO, which is I won't say a brother out of Texas. Got to be respectful. Gentleman out of Texas, Eric Dargan. When that happened, even at this level, it creates motivation. Like having a black COO triggers something in me that nothing else can. You have to be in the shoes to understand. Now, we had a promotional ceremony for our lifeguards yesterday, and he showed up. Our COOs, I've never seen a COO at our lifeguard graduation. He showed up and he was speaking to everybody in the crowd. And as he's speaking to everybody in the crowd, he made his way over to me, and we actually had a conversation. Usually when somebody is important, as the mayor or the COO, it's a high-buy situation. He actually took the time to get to know me and wanted to know who I was, what I was doing. That little 5 to 6 minute conversation motivated me in ways that people will never understand. It seemed like nothing, right? But that's all stems from the mayor preaching diversity and doing it, and now putting somebody in place that he's just comfortable. He saw another brother and say, "Hey, how you doing, sir?" We just had a conversation. But I will remember that conversation for the rest of my career. And after that, it triggered a whole bunch. I already feel like I'm doing my fair for my share for diversity, but it triggered a bunch of other things that I can do just with a 5 to 6 minute conversation. And that's what diversity does.
Our allies in the station also have to say something if they see something too. I feel like
That part.
again, we live together, and anyone can get these jobs from all over the world, country. And some folks have to unlearn some stuff to learn new things. So if you're an ally and and you're tight-lipped sometimes, it actually hurts more. And again, in the station, it's a lot that goes on that people will never recognize or even know until they actually do it. So as an ally, I would tell them to definitely say something if you see something, if you feel uncomfortable, and that would be very much appreciated.
Silence is acceptance.
Man, it truly is. It truly is.
I feel like each of these things have been beautifully stated. I do want to thank each of you for taking the time, making the time. You probably didn't have the time to take, but you made the time to come down to Sacramento, the Cal-JAC headquarter office, to be able to do this, to be able to give back in this way. And the same way that people have given and poured into you, I'm sure that this episode will do exactly that. For all the users, whether they look like us as they're watching and identify as Black within some segment of that, or not, you know? So I definitely want to thank each of you for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
inviting us.
Most definitely.